Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to the Introduction to B Fundamentals webinar series. This is the first of two. The next one will be a Train the Trainer, and we'll provide some more details that one. But my name is Abby Brokaw. I'm with the Illinois EPA Office of Energy. We are a subawardee of CDAC to partner with them on this project. And then we looped in one of our very good partners, the Illinois Green Economy Network. So we're very excited about this curriculum CDAC has put together and excited about the agenda today. Just so you know, you probably just got a pop-up, but today's event is being recorded. You can change the view if you go to the top right corner of your screen. And also this is set up in a meeting format, so please self-mute yourself unless you have questions. If you have questions, feel free to raise your hand or put something in the chat, and Katie or I will go ahead and help moderate questions as they pop up. This will be pretty informal. We'll try to stick to doing questions at the end of each presentation, but if something, you know, really burning pops up that you have to know the answer now, feel free to raise your hand in the middle of the presentation. And then we also have an instructor panel that we hope to be kind of interactive with those in attendance. I think, Katie, you can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, our partners today are Illinois EPA Office of Energy, Illinois Green Economy Network, U.S. Department of Energy is providing the funding and the partnership, and you'll hear from Pacific Northwest National Labs about that partnership as well, briefly, and then the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center, and Sumi Han is the program manager for this project. We'll have an overview of the B Fundamentals curriculum, an instructor experience panel, career development resources will be presented by Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and then we'll have the closing. Next slide. We will do, Katie, are you ready to do the poll?
I am. Let me pop the poll up.
Okay, we're going to do a brief poll just to see what type of industry participants are here today. So if you could please, it should pop up on your screen. If you could go ahead and select and submit.
And I do see folks are answering, so thank you so much. We'll leave it open for a few more seconds and give everyone a chance to respond.
And then while everyone's responding, I'll go ahead and note we are going to do a follow-up survey following the event today. So you'll probably get that in your email Monday or Tuesday just to gauge overall experience today in preparation for Friday's Train the Trainer event, next Friday's Train the Trainer event. And then as it notes here, I'll provide, there will be a screen, a slide at the very end that gives information about the time and date for that event to be hosted by CDAC.
Okay.
Are we able, how's the poll going?
Poll's looking, we have, I think, 39 folks on. It looks like 32 have answered. So a couple folks, if you want to take a second to respond, and then we'll close that out. Okay, I think we can go ahead and end the poll. And I think you'll see results on your screen here. Share results. Can you all see?
Great.
Great, okay.
That's great, thank you so much.
Perfect.
Okay, well, next we have a welcome video from the manager of the Office of Energy, my supervisor, Chad Cruz. He's on vacation right now, so he very kindly recorded a video for us to welcome you all to today's event.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Illinois Launch Webinar for the B Fundamentals Program, brought to you by CDAC and sponsored by the U.S. Department of Energy, Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. My name is Chad Cruz, and I currently serve as manager of the Illinois EPA Office of Energy and as the Illinois State Energy Officer with my small but mighty group, including Abby Brokaw, our Energy Resiliency Coordinator, and Amy Roderick, our Energy Efficiency Coordinator. Serving in this role has afforded me the opportunity to understand the importance of energy efficiency and energy codes, both in our works to decarbonize the economy and mitigate the effects of climate change. Because of that understanding, I am excited about the work of Illinois' own CDAC launching the B Fundamentals program and your attendance at today's launch webinar. Thank you all for taking the time to learn more about this important work. It is my hope that the Building Energy Education program will ease your integration of energy efficiency and energy codes. Good afternoon.
So sorry about that.
To the Illinois Launch Webinar. The Illinois EPA Office of Energy has played only a minor role in helping CDAC to develop the B Fundamentals program. But I would like to share a bit about what the Office of Energy is actively engaged in across Illinois. First, our Illinois EPA Office of Energy philosophy places energy efficiency and energy equity front and center. Energy efficiency is a resource that we are always trying to tap to reduce the state's energy demand and thereby save residents energy and the associated costs. Energy equity is a goal that we are constantly striving for, to ensure that we work to reduce that energy burden for all Illinois residents, regardless of who they are or where they find themselves across the state. The Office of Energy work that may resonate most with you all is our work with CDAC to reach every corner of Illinois with accessible energy codes training and tech support. This work began in 2018, and since that time has reached approximately 6,000 energy code officials across Illinois with more than 60 educational workshops, presentations, and webinars. On the technical support side, the CDAC team has answered more than 630 questions with detailed information on how to implement or comply with the Illinois Energy Conservation Code. Our public water infrastructure energy efficiency program has also successfully reached across the state by reducing the energy demand at wastewater treatment and drinking water treatment facilities. This program has two elements that complement one another. First, we supply no-cost energy efficiency assessments at public water infrastructure that highlight energy savings opportunities in reports written in plain English for facility operators and municipal decision makers. Second, we offer a competitively awarded grant program for the implementation of projects identified by energy efficiency assessments. The primary criteria for scoring proposed projects is the amount of energy savings per state of Illinois dollar invested. To date, this program has resulted in over 100 assessments conducted across Illinois. Annual energy savings in excess of $3 million identified in those assessments, and more than $2.5 million in U.S. Department of Energy State Energy Program funds invested in energy saving projects. The Office of Energy carries out this work with two valuable partners, CDAC and the Illinois Sustainable Technology Center, also out of the University of Illinois. Finally, the Illinois Clean Energy Innovation Fund makes direct investments in high potential, early stage, Illinois-based clean tech companies to support innovation, entrepreneurship, and job creation in Illinois' clean tech sector. The Illinois EPA Office of Energy collaborates with Evergreen Climate Innovations in Chicago to manage this revolving investment fund and bolster the clean energy economy in Illinois. I just want to finish by thanking CDAC for this opportunity to introduce you all to the work of the Illinois EPA Office of Energy. And I want to thank them for this important work bringing energy code across the state and nation through community colleges. I also want to thank you all who are participating today for taking the time to learn more about this important work. Thank you.
Okay, so that was Chad Cruz. As I said, he's the manager of the Office of Energy. If you've ever met Chad, he's a little more enthusiastic than came through in that video. But feel free to reach out to Chad or I with any questions you have about the work we do with the Illinois EPA Office of Energy. Next, and one of our greatest partners here with with Illinois EPA, along with CDAC, we have Katie Davis, who's the director of the Illinois Green Economy Network.
Thank you so much. I'll be brief. I know we have a lot to get through today, but I just wanted to say thank you again to CDAC and IEPA. We've had great relationships with both of these wonderful partners for many years, and we're so excited to be asked to be a part of this webinar today. So for those who may not know, iGen is the Illinois Green Economy Network. We're a consortium of all 39 Illinois community college districts. We were formed in 2008 through an intergovernmental agreement with support from both the governor's office and the Department of Commerce Economic Opportunity. Our mission is really to provide a platform for collaboration amongst all Illinois community colleges and our partners to drive growth of the clean energy economy and the green workforce. And our vision is to really see the Illinois community college system as a global leader in transforming the economy and education for a sustainable future. We have many areas of focus for the network, but one of our big priorities has been energy for several years. Our main objectives are to help expand deployment of clean energy technology, increase employment opportunities, improve environmental and human health, foster community engagement, and accelerate market competitiveness. Over the last decade or so, we have successfully managed the implementation of numerous sustainability-related initiatives, programs, and projects totaling over $30 million. We're led by an administrative team that I am the director of, and we receive strategic direction from our President's Steering Committee, including community college presidents and representation from the Illinois Community College Board. We also have what we call the 4 C's, campuses, curricula, careers, and communities. And obviously today's focus is really on curricula. This is obviously a big area that we like to focus on for iGen and within the community colleges, helping to expand current curricula or create new curricula focused on incorporating energy or sustainability into these programs. So this is a great opportunity for our folks at our community colleges to take advantage of this great curricula that CDAC has created. And if you have any questions for me either today or later, feel free to contact me. Thank you.
I'm talking on mute. Thank you, Katie. Really appreciate your help and iGen's help in putting together today's agenda. And next we have Ian Blanding. Ian is a research analyst in buildings and connected systems for the Energy and Environment Directorate at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory.
Great. Thanks, Abby. Can everybody hear me? Good.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Well, first off, happy Earth Day. So this is awesome that we're having this this kickoff call during Earth Day. As Abby said, I'm Ian Blanding. I'm a research analyst at the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, and I spend most of my time supporting the Department of Energy Building Energy Codes program. And part of that work is overseeing many of the projects that the Building Energy Codes program funds, with this project being one of them. So I've had the opportunity to really follow along with this project and see all the progress that's been made, and provide thoughts and guidance throughout. And it's just been a really rewarding experience and a great project so far. And this project is funded under the Advanced Building Construction Initiative. And so for those that aren't familiar with that initiative at DOE, it's really focused on accelerating the decarbonization of the residential and commercial building sectors in the US, and helping to address long-term affordability crisis by employing industrialized construction practices and advanced building technologies. And so DOE is really kind of taken a multi-pronged approach to do this, really going from research and development to commercialization to deployment. And really that deployment aspect is workforce development is really critical in order to make that happen. So in order for these new technologies, new construction approaches to really be successful and implemented, a highly trained workforce is critical, which is one of the many reasons that DOE selected this project as part of that initiative. And really, aside from that, this training program, I think really it helps address a key workforce development need by developing those resources and curricula for community colleges, trade schools, and building departments, which is really critical for growing the diversified and highly skilled workforce that we need to implement these advanced building technologies, and then also implementing new and updated energy codes, which is something that obviously the Building Energy Codes program spends a lot of time thinking about. And it's especially critical at a time when skilled trades and the availability of professionals in skilled trades is at an all-time low, and current professionals in skilled trades and building officials are entering their retirement years. So I think by providing this resource for community colleges to really grow that field is really imperative to be able to continue to progress the way we are in our building sector, as well as building energy efficiency and sustainability. And I'm sure Sumi and the team will get into the structure behind the training program, but I really enjoyed the fact that it really goes from kind of the basic building science through building energy code implementation, all the way to more advanced construction practices and technologies, which in the case of Illinois really can't come at a better time. With the state updating their energy code and the establishment of a stretch energy code through the Illinois Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, this training program that provides that critical resource is going to be really, really helpful for meeting those goals and really implementing those new codes. So with that, I will send it back to the team, but thank you all for being here. We're really excited to be at the piloting phase of this project, and we hope that these resources are helpful and can be useful in your classrooms and broader education and training programs.
Great, Ian. Thank you so much for your time and for DOE's and PNNL's support in these efforts. So now we're getting to, I think we're through welcomes and introductions. So now we're getting to the focus of today's event, which includes the introduction of the B Fundamentals program. And to do that, we have Sumi Han, who is the Assistant Director of Operations. She is at CDEC. She's the manager of the Illinois Energy Conservation Code and Training Program and the program manager of the B Fundamentals curriculum.
Thank you, Abby. We can go to the next slide, Katie, please. So thank you for attending today's webinar, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to present the B Fundamentals program overview today. Next. So my name is Sumi Han, and I'm from the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center, in short, CDAC. CDAC is an applied research program at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And we have been working in energy efficiency industry about 15, maybe 18 years by now. Our sponsors include sponsors and partners include federal agencies and state agencies, utilities and municipalities, and private firms. And our mission is to reduce the energy footprint of Illinois and beyond. Next, please. For this program, B Fundamentals, CDAC has partnered with state energy offices in 3 states, Illinois, Hawaii, and Nevada. As you can see from this list, we have many collaborators and participants of the program from many different fields. To name a few, our participants are from community colleges and universities, K-12 schools, municipalities, such as building department and economic development department, and state agencies, utilities, design firms, such as architects and engineers, and construction companies and contractors, and professional organizations. Next, please. And this Building Energy Education Fundamentals program has 2 main goals. As Ian mentioned it before, this is to provide education and resources on fundamentals and energy efficiency and energy code, and also to raise awareness in career paths in energy efficiency and energy code. Next, please. The target audience for this program are the community college instructors and students, and also entry-level building design and construction professionals, and anybody who are interested in learning more about energy efficiency and energy code. And this B Fundamentals curriculum is designed to be incorporated into existing courses or programs to gain fundamental knowledge required for building energy efficiency. But it also could be used as a standalone curriculum. But based on the feedback from participants, we thought this is more feasible to have multiple segments of curriculum, so it could be easily adapted to the existing curriculum. Next, please. So this B Fundamentals curriculum has 15 modules, and each module has multiple submodules. And those 15 modules have like 4 groups. So we have like an intro and an envelope group, and then HVAC and lighting kind of mechanical system like a group, and then advanced group. And this curriculum can be taught in multiple disciplines, including building design, in construction and architecture and mechanical engineering, energy management and sustainability, HVAC trades, and related fields. Next, please. So this graphic shows a range of different energy efficiency jobs. The jobs with dotted outlines, I hope you can see it well, are jobs that are relatively new, such as commissioning services, auditing services, energy modeling, and building automation. The jobs with solid outlines are jobs that have existed for a long time, but have become more energy efficiency focused, such as engineers, architects, electrical contractors. So this chart emphasizes that energy efficiency jobs cover a wide range of industry and skills, employers, and sectors. Next, please. And this slide shows that whatever the interests or skills individuals may have, there is probably a place in the energy efficiency workforce for them. Here are some examples of different skill sets that connect well to energy efficiency jobs. We're going to talk a little bit more about building related jobs and some non-building related jobs in the next few slides. Next, please. So about the building related jobs in energy efficiency, buildings consume about 40% of the energy used in the US, and the average building have potential to reduce about 30% of that energy. As technology improves and policy efforts invest in energy efficiency, that fraction will likely increase. And that's why I think many people, joined us today to talk about this, career path and in energy efficiency and energy code professionals. From design to maintenance and operation, these building-related jobs represent a range of skills from analytical and remote to hands-on and on-site. Especially, these pandemic, phase, we are, seeing more and more of those, remote jobs that are in energy efficiency. Next, please. There are also non-building related or non-construction careers in energy efficiency, such as program implementation, product development, and public works, such as water treatment and public transportation. Next, please. And not all energy efficiency work is technical, as you can see here. Sales and marketing, program management, accounting, and policy making. And actually, it takes a great deal of outreach and education too. Next, please. And now we're going to talk about a career in code professional. We thought this is interesting data on code officials, which provides some insight for people who are considering careers in building codes. The figure on the left shows that 82% of code officials plan to retire in 15 years. The figure on the right shows that job security is the #1 reason, but 36% of code officials, the green bar, chose the reason to choose a code profession as a career is a respect for the profession. So we thought that's really inspiring and interesting result. Next, please. And there was a report published by ICC called The Future of Code Officials. And these quotes are from that report. And the question to code official was, what advices do code officials want to give to young professionals? And they said the career as a code professional is extremely rewarding, always helping people, always learning. And one of the code officials spoke about his experience of 25 years of experience as an apprentice, journeyman, and foreman and supervisor, and how that served really well for him to be an inspector. And then another inspector emphasized the importance of training. And I think those are all good advices for anybody who is considering a career in energy efficiency, especially in energy code field. Next, please. So with information on careers in energy efficiency and building codes, why this B fundamental programs is needed and why is this important? So we have interviewed instructors and energy efficiency professionals, and these are quotes from our interviewees, which emphasize the need of training, education, and resources for building energy education fundamentals. One code official said, we're going to keep struggling with code compliance until energy code training permeates the building trade. And another instructor from Nevada said, like energy code, it's getting updated every 3 years, and it is very important to get up-to-date information. And also one Hawaii consultant said that it is very important to have hands-on experience or see live examples. So we couldn't really, have a lot of hands-on experience or live examples in our curriculum, but we really try to do it by using a lot of photos and videos. Next slide, please. So to learn more about the need of energy efficiency and energy code education program, we have conducted a study. Next, please. For our study, we have reviewed literature and received feedback from survey and interview. And I'm sure many of you who attended today's webinar, we have reached out to you to ask questions and ask for interview and fill out the survey. So thank you so much. And next slide. And next few slides are results from our survey and interview. And we questions about the knowledge of energy code. Survey participants felt that architects are most educated on energy code, and meanwhile the contractors and construction management professionals have least educated. They are least educated on energy code. But interestingly, when we had a meeting with Nevada participants yesterday, one architect said, well, I'm not sure. Architects sometimes tend to, feel like they know or they are most educated in energy code, but actually not. They are trying to get by and they're trying to do just a minimum so they don't, cause any problems. So that was interesting feedback from one of the participants. Next, please. For need of additional training, 86% of instructors are interested in enhancing energy and energy code education in their program. So that was really, encouraging result for us. Next, please. For topics and contents of training, survey participants expressed that following topics should be included, such as basics of energy code, whole building approach, information about new practices and technologies, and information about career in code and energy efficiency. Next, please. For teaching method, participants expressed that short videos, demonstrations, building science basics, self-directed learning activities, and experiential learning, those are really much more effective than traditional lectures. Next, please. For the question of is it feasible to integrate new content into existing curriculum, many replied that if it's small add-on elements and resources to reinforce existing content, that's pretty feasible. But if it required major changes in addition, and if it's a standalone courses, that might not be feasible because they have some administrative, approval process that they need to go through. So that's why we focus on this small add-on elements that training providers could incorporate into their existing program. Next, please. And here is what we have developed based on the feedback and input. Next, please. And this is, if you come to our program webpage, this is how it looks. And it has a lot of information, but here I want to just emphasize two things. One is the Instructor Toolkit, how to use curriculum on the left circle. And then the other one is access, how to access to our modules, which is based on Moodle site. Next, please. So if you click, Instructor Toolkit icon, this is what you are going to see. Under the About Our Program, you will have question and answer, such as what is this program about, why all the focus on energy code, how can I be involved and get updated. And under using our curriculum, you could have answers to questions such as how should I select which curriculum to use? Can my students work through the material on their own? And how can I provide feedback? And we have some little bit of information about actual curriculum on here. So that way, without logging into our Moodle site, you have a little bit of overview, just a quick idea on what our curriculum looks like. Next, please. But to get a full access to the curriculum that we have developed, you need to come to our Moodle site, and you need to have your login access. It's free, so if you have not signed up for our Moodle yet, we highly recommend that you do it as soon as possible to take advantage of resources we developed and provide feedback to us. As you can see, this is an example of first, module, energy efficiency, careers and pathway. We have multiple sub-modules, and we have activities and quiz and survey. And for students who are doing self-learning, we have certificates for them too. Next slide. So this is a video, and I think the video is the sound is a little kind of soft. So if you could increase your device volume, it'll help. And it's just a 2-minute video to show you how to navigate the Moodle, because, as somebody who never kind of navigate the Moodle, it could be a little bit challenging, but once you kind of get to know, it's very intuitive and easy to access. So let's watch this 2-minute video.
Thank you for your interest in our Building Energy Education Fundamentals, or B Fundamentals program. This video explains how to access and use our educational materials. You will need to create an account to access the materials. Signing up is quick and easy. Click on our Moodle page to get started. Be sure to indicate whether you are an instructor or student. We have special instructor-only resources. Our curriculum is free to use. There are 4 groups of modules in our B Fundamentals program. There are 4 intro modules. In our last group, Advanced Modules, there are 3 modules: Beyond Code, Net Zero Buildings, and Existing Building Renovations. Now let's take a look at an example module from our Envelope group, Envelope and Insulation Fundamentals. For this module, there are 3 subtopics as well as activities, which include worksheets, a Jeopardy game, and other activities. Let's take a look at the first subtopic in this module and see what it contains. Here's where you will find the presentation slides. The PowerPoint is for instructors and the PDF is for students. The PowerPoint instructor slides contain detailed lecture notes and context for the slides that will be helpful. Activities for this module are located in a special Activities folder. Worksheets can be assigned as homework or in-class activities. We've created a review game based off the popular TV show Jeopardy! This is a building control layers activity where students are encouraged to practice reading construction drawings and identifying control layers. There's an online quiz that students can take to demonstrate that they have learned the material in the module. Students who receive a score of 70% or higher receive a certificate of achievement.
Add my responses to the
Have questions?
report. Thank you. Bye.
All right, thank you. So I wanted to kind of navigate it with you on live, but sometimes that takes time and sometimes I stumble. So Anthony from our office, created this video, and hopefully it's easy, and now you have some idea how to navigate.
I'm good. Just wanted to let you know I sent you an email.
Get some resources from our curriculum.
And I didn't know if you were getting it or not.
Slide. I think we need to use somebody else.
Sorry, I'm trying to find it here.
Earlier, asking if you would.
Okay, I muted everybody right now. Sorry about that. Just a moment. I'm going to now.
Then that.
Okay.
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 So let's look at the next slide, please. So today's event that we are having with you is Illinois Launch Webinar. And as you can see, we have been working with Hawaii State and Nevada too, and we already finished their one, and we're the last one of the Launch Webinar series. So I'm really glad that it's going well, and we have a lot of participants from Hawaii and Nevada too, and also here in Illinois. But I want to emphasize that Train the Trainer workshop, if you are an instructor or training program provider, I highly recommend that you come to next Friday's event. We are planning to do some hands-on, activities and some scavenger hunt. And this could be a chance for you to share your experience with other instructors and also learn from their experience, sometimes from different states. So hopefully it will be a good event for you. Next slide, please. So if you have any questions about this B Fundamentals program, please feel free to reach out to me. It's my just full name, sumihan@illinois.edu, and you can find my contact information on CDAT website too. So thank you very much.
And I think we actually have some additional time left. If anyone has some questions for Sumi right now about the Fundamentals curriculum, feel free to raise your hand, and Katie, I don't know what it's called if you call on them or how that works, but
Sure.
we'll get everyone introduced, and just say your name and where you work, and go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, and actually, maybe I should stop sharing so we can see each other right now while we have some time for questions before we move on to our next speakers.
I think Deb
Great.
has raised her hand.
Okay, yep. Deb, I see you, but here, let me stop sharing just for now so we can see you. Okay.
You can't see me because I'm not camera ready, but I do want to ask two questions real quick. One is for people who want to come to the instructor workshop, can they sign up by just emailing you? Or are you going to send a calendar invite out to all those who were here today? How are we going to do that? And then I have a second question.
Yeah, we already send out, information, but we'll make sure that we include the registration link in our follow-up email. And also I will just quickly send, this copy and paste this link in the chat box now.
Okay,
So
great.
you have it there.
Great, thank you. My second question is, I think I may have mentioned this to you. We're going to do a convening of textbook publishers, and supported by some of the same partners that you have, which is interesting. And so this would be great material to institutionalize into textbooks, especially for adjunct instructors who don't necessarily look for the additional materials. So I assume this is open source, right? If a textbook publisher wanted to utilize this and include it, they could?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I want to
And
emphasize one more
Deb-
time. So this is, copyright-free material. We want as many people take our materials and use it. So, yep.
And Deb, can you go ahead and say which organization you're with?
Oh, well, I'm actually have a project with iGen. So we've been building modules for iGen, and then I also work with the National Council for Workforce Education. And then I also co-organize the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance. I think those are the relevant ones for your question.
Great,
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Sumi?
Folks can also utilize the chat if if maybe you want to speak with the group but don't feel like unmuting or aren't on camera. Feel free to type a question in the chat as well. Oh, Bart, I see that your hand is raised if you want to go ahead and unmute.
Okay, so I noticed that whenever I was doing the Moodle, that the last for the certificate it said restricted on mine, and is there something that we have to do to get that unrestricted for?
Yes, so when you sign in to Moodle, we're asking, who you are. So if you identify yourself as an instructor, then you have access to all the materials that we have built. Because the reason why we did it is, we also want students to come and do self-learning, but we don't want to give them quiz, answers to the quiz question. So that's a difference. And the reason for you not to have the access to the completion certificate is because that's mainly for the students, because we thought, instructors don't really need, the certificate. But if you, to get the certificate, you need to go through each module and you need to pass the quiz that we have created, which is at more than 70%. And then you only have 5 attempts. So if you fail that, then you don't get the certificate. But maybe if you want to log into the different username, maybe you could. But that's how we designed
I was just checking because when you log in as an instructor, all you see is the instructor view. So I didn't know if that's what if the student's seen something different. So that's great.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And Francis asked, how do we verify someone is an instructor? We don't. If somebody says they are instructor, we kind of think that, okay, you are instructor. And sometimes even though they're like let's say we have like an architect, engineer, instructor, student, if some architect have this small training program and he want to have the answers and all the instructor only resources, he can just identify himself as an instructor. And I don't think there'll be a lot of abuse by students just to get the answer to the quiz question and misidentify themselves as instructor. But yeah, that's how we just, we are depending on how individual identify themselves. And then that's how we give a different access or a different level of access to the material.
Sumi, I had a question. The certificates I know you all host a lot of energy code training events that allow or accommodate continuing education credits. Are those certificates linked to any kind of continuing ed credits, or was your goal mostly just to ensure that the materials being understood as they complete from module to module?
Right. So that's one of the questions that we get a lot. So this B fundamentals is not designed to provide AIA or ICC credit, no professional continuing education credits. This is just, a certificate of completion. And if any of you who are interested in getting those CEU, AIA and ICC credits, we have a separate program, Illinois Energy Code Training Program, and all of our events, webinars and workshops and even online, modules, those are for, AIA and ICC credits. So that's what you could do. And the reason why we didn't provide those professional continuing education credits for this program is the audience is mainly for the, just entry level, professional. We want to teach about the fundamentals and basic, not, particular, like for the professional architects or engineers. So that's fine. Thank you for all those good questions.
Great.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I just have a question. Is the content the same that we've received here as what the professional architects would receive, or is it different content?
It's the same content, but for instance, so the PowerPoint, resources, we have PowerPoint version of the resource and then PDF version of resource. So students have access to the PDF, but the instructors have access to both. But the PowerPoint version have some the comments in the notes section. So that's something sometimes our suggestion or some wording that instructors could use. So that's a little different thing. So, but the content itself is the same. We don't have like a separate content, but it's like a level of like, I guess, added resources.
Sumi, I wonder if they're asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, whether the content is the same between this and our other training that where you get credit from AIA or energy code training.
Was that the question, Deb?
Yeah, that was the question, because we get architects in our classes sometimes, you know, and I just want to be able to know, do we have access to that more advanced, if there is more advanced material?
Yes. So as I said, like our separate program, Illinois Energy Code Training Program, and I will send you the link to that page soon. But that's, you know, has a different, you know, more like our main target audience for that program is professionals. So that has a little bit more, you know, in-depth knowledge, in-depth content, and that is for the professional continuing education credits. And I will just hop in this link. And if you come to the CEDAC website, we have workshop, webinar, online courses, and technical support. And this online courses, we are using the platform called Thinkific, and that's a little different from Moodle. Moodle is kind of like a bunch of materials, resources there and organized, but this Thinkific is a little bit more like an online learning friendly for self-learners. So you will see, and these all are free, and our past workshops and webinars, you know, we have most of those past events, we have recordings and also presentation, you know, PDFs are all available. So if you wanna take those, you could, you know, learn from there. But to get the continuing education credits, you need to attend the live webinar. So past webinar, you could watch the recordings and get the PDF, but you will not get the CEUs. Cool. Any other questions?
Okay.
Anything related to IDPH?
IDPH.
For plumbing inspectors or plumbers?
Oh, yeah, of course. So in the link that I just, you know, put it there, we do have also like a resources. I will find that. So we have a smart tips, and then we have content for the plumbing or hot water in terms of energy code, hot water circulation, and those kind of things are part of energy code. So we have developed resources for the smart tips, which is 2-page just fact sheet. And we also have like online modules dedicated to it. And that one we could provide continuing education credit. And some of our past workshop, we did have the webinars for the plumbing inspectors. So I'm not sure if we recorded those, but at least we do have presentation slide available.
So how do I know if they are accredited CEU time for my license?
Well, we are ICC training preferred provider and AIA, you know, continuing education provider. So we are not particularly like for the like a plumbing inspector, like a certified program training provider. But I believe if it's AIA and ICC accredited, then it is also kind of counted, could be counted toward plumbing inspectors continuing education.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to move on to our instructor panel. We have 3 instructors with us here today. We have Chris Schwedick. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Yep, okay. Adjunct faculty career and technical programs with Harper College, and architect director, chief code consultant with Burnham Nationwide. We also have Bart Pulliam, professor of construction management and applied technologies at John A. Logan College. And then Linda Larson, an instructor of energy in the built environment for the Department of Landscape Architecture at UIUC, and communications and education program director for CDAC. The way we're gonna organize this is we had sent some questions ahead of time to the instructors. I'm gonna give them a couple minutes here to introduce themselves, but please feel free to raise your hand or ask questions in the chat as we go through. The first couple questions will be for all three instructors, and then we have some specific questions for them based on their individual experience and their field of expertise. So I'll start with Chris first, and then we'll go to Bart and then to Linda. Can you give us a high level 1 to 2 minute overview of your job and the path that led you to that career?
And first?
Go for it.
Yeah, you hear me good. So my career as an architect, for about 20 years, I managed the production of construction drawings and specifications for a wide variety of project types, including lots of national retail build-outs. And that's where I learned a lot about building codes and building departments throughout the country. My expertise in Chicago codes dates from when I assisted the Chicago Building Congress in 1990 with compiling a prototypical plan examination set of checklists that were later adapted by the Department of Buildings for plan review purposes. And that was during the beginning of the Daley administration, when he appointed the first building commissioner who was an attorney rather than a building industry professional, and who stopped the practice of allowing construction to begin before a permit was completed, which was the solution at the time to the lengthy permit process. Anyway, the situation also gave rise to the practice of what is called permit expediting, right, in Chicago, which eventually led to my position at Burnham Nationwide as a code consultant. Most of my consulting work at the beginning was performed with the contractor being the client, although I always worked with architects directly and other design professionals as well on code issues pertaining to municipal approvals. And I also began teaching as an adjunct at Harper College around 1998, initiating their building code course, as well as a course on construction drawings for interior designers. So things started to change rapidly after 2000, when the International Code Council began issuing a new set of codes that blended together the three previous model codes into one. And the first edition of the International Energy Conservation Code was adapted for use by the city of Chicago. I was then trained to become what the city dubbed a registered energy professional. So they were requiring registered energy professionals to actually sign off on the drawings, a complete set of drawings for meeting code compliance for the energy code. At the same time, Burnham formed an architectural firm, the Code Group, and we were contracted by the Chicago Department of Buildings to perform third-party plan reviews for larger, more complex projects. So between the private consulting, including an expert, being an expert witness on cases involving codes, the teaching, and the third-party plan reviews, I've remained steadily employed as an alternate, as in this alternate career path for the last 25 years.
That's wonderful. Very interesting. Thank you, Chris. Bart, you're up next.
Well, I'm Bart Pulliam, John A. Logan College. I started on my career path as a general contractor, spent several years doing that, and then and have watched the evolution from the contractor side of energy and energy efficiency. And then I transferred to a local architect and was their plan review guy, and reviewed code and make sure that everything was built per plan and spec, and did quality management researched a little bit on what might be the best course of action on the next building, and basically they're hands-on construction guy. In that process, I decided I was going to go back out and build and do different projects in the community, and I realized there are very few trained professionals. So I got the opportunity to switch from the field to the classroom, and so that we could train some of these people to do this work that we're in the field, direly needing. So it's been a journey, and to be honest with you, I've learned more about energy efficiency and green construction as a teacher than I did in the field. You had a slide up earlier, and I was looking at it and I was saying, the architect knows a lot about it, and the construction manager, and that's what I was a construction manager for several contractors. When we're looking at that, a lot of times we're just the guy that puts in what the architect designs, and we're not asking questions. So what I've realized as an instructor is we have to be the marketing guy. We have to be the guy. We're the face-to-face with the owners, and for the most part, even when we're asked to consult with architects, we're the guy that we really need to be more adept at marketing this. And I always attribute green to money, and I always so I look at it from the contractor's point of view and say green construction is great money. We're doing a great service, and we're sitting there on the front line saving the owner money through efficiency. So we're really focused on the marketing part, and from my side, and us learning the code and understanding the code lets us market it better. If there was something that I could say about how I got to where I'm at right now, is pursuit of more knowledge and the desire to have this field grow, and for the guys that I'm training every day to be employable in these markets. So that's about.
Great. Thank you so much, Bart. Linda.
I'm just inspired by what Bart and Chris have said. It's exciting to me that we can keep learning as professionals, that some of the basics, that we may not know of, we can learn them as we go along. I started as a technical writer and as an instructor of English, and found my way to energy efficiency by accident. In the last 5 years since I've been working at CDAC, I've had the opportunity to learn a lot about the energy code, a lot about energy efficient construction, and I see my job as being able to communicate to a lay audience, someone without a technical background perhaps, about the benefits of energy efficiency. And one of my duties at CDAC is to teach a course at the University of Illinois on building, on energy in the built environment. It's a introduction to building energy systems, and it's required me to learn a lot about building energy systems as I prepare to teach it. But we've utilized these modules heavily to teach the students this class and to give them just a basic background. And you would be surprised how many graduate students don't know the difference between a kilowatt and a kilowatt hour, have no idea what HVAC system they have in their house. So this is just really valuable information for students at all levels, and it's been really fun to learn myself and teach.
Thank you, Linda. All right, so the first question we have is, in your field, what role does building energy efficiency play, and especially related to building codes? Who wants to go first? Chris?
Well, interestingly enough, for many years, the only provision in Chicago to follow energy conservation using ASHRAE 90.1 was found in the zoning ordinance under planned developments. So if you became a planned development, then you were required to follow ASHRAE. But of course, there was no one in the zoning department who had the least amount of information as to what ASHRAE was. So, but once Chicago adopted the International Energy Conservation Code, with Illinois following suit shortly thereafter, it became clear that most architects needed to get up to speed with the requirements of both the IECC and 90.1. So as a registered energy professional, I often did the ComCheck and ResCheck work for clients. But as time went on and other professionals became more familiar with the requirements, we mostly just answer a lot of compliance related questions or refer our clients to CDAC. Now, it is increasingly important to get building owners and managers up to speed with the growing demands for energy efficiency by their prospective tenants who want various specialties like underfloor air distribution systems, dinners, on their emergency lighting and things like that. So that's where we come in. Energy conservation has also affected the design of building envelopes, and there is an increasing need to obtain consulting engineering judgments for wall assemblies to prevent tragedies such as occurred with the Grenfell Tower in England. So that's kind of where I see it.
Okay, Bart?
Code in construction is every day, day in, day out, review, learn, adapt, try to in Southern Illinois, we don't have near the code enforcement that, in my opinion, that needs to be enacted. It's pretty much done by the local municipality, and what I've seen in my 25 years of being in Southern Illinois is, especially with Habitat for Humanity, they tend to go to the most lax code city to build because of low income. And most of the houses that we build for Habitat for Humanity, and that's, we build 2 or 3 a year for them. We, as the construction management program, we try to bring in advanced framing techniques, things that are immediate cost savings in construction, because they're low income, they can't afford to front load the cost of their housing. So we're trying to figure out different ways in which we can go above and below and beyond the minimum code requirement that we have in Southern Illinois.
Okay.
I took this question a little differently because, it's a little hard for me to answer it personally for my field. But the students I teach, they are largely coming from fields like urban planning and sustainable design. They're interested in policy. And this course has been really eye-opening to them. What we started out with a climate change perspective. What are the actions that we can take to really reduce climate change that relate to buildings? And by understanding the energy code, understanding some of these policies that are, that are adopted at the state level, they can see what a difference energy efficiency and building right can make on our emissions. And I think they've gained an appreciation for the importance of building, of the building code officials and how they can help us address this problem. So it's been funny. It's been fun to hear how they're thinking about energy efficiency as it relates to their careers in sustainable design and urban planning. I think they see it as a big part of the solution. So that's been exciting to see.
And that kind of leads into the next question we have, which is a little more workforce development focused. Just based on the three of your experience as instructors, what are you finding as your sense of the preparation that students currently have and the education and training available to build a sustained workforce in building codes, energy efficiency, construction, your different areas of expertise? And maybe if you can do a little plug how B fundamentals could play a role in that and help.
I can start this one out. So whenever, how prepared are the average construction management student whenever they graduate and go out into the field? I would say more prepared than most. We try to integrate all of the building codes into every class. Whether it be an environmental systems class or a wood frame class or even our construction administration class, we try to integrate some portion of code into every class. What I like about the B fundamentals so far is the fact that since you have modules, we can take, we can pick and choose which one fits best for our class. Because, with the ICCB, you have to have your curriculum set, all changes to curriculum need to be run through, ICCB. And with the system the way it is right now, it's hard to add and subtract classes from your program. It sometimes, depending on what college you're at, you might take a year or two to make that kind of change. So by having a module system that we can plug in, on a case by case basis, it seems to work with what I'm looking at. I have a green construction class. We have some blueprint classes, and where it falls in, we can just plug it in, and it seamlessly moves through our program. So yes, we've looked at in the past having a energy code or a building code class, but it works so much better when you're talking about electrical in an environmental systems class or HVAC to incorporate it at that time, instead of to have a completely different class that's only talking about those things. Since we're doing hands-on, and we try to do hands-on, learning as much as we possibly can. It seems to fit with the community college learning environment for me.
Speaking for Chris, I can speak a little bit to the students, although again, I'm dealing with a slightly different student population than Bart is or Chris is. The students I work with are training to be engineers, and some of them architects, urban planners. And I would say I'm a little surprised at how little they know about energy systems when they come in, often as graduate students, into my course. So I do feel like this is a good course for just about everyone. Even if you don't have a construction background, what it does is it teaches you how to think about the buildings, the places that you live in. And I think it can be useful for the average homeowner to understand some of this information. So I would say the general public and the sustainability oriented students that I've been working with have some major gaps in their understanding of building energy systems. So can be, this kind of curriculum, I think, could be helpful for any sustainability themed class where you want to focus on that big chunk of emissions, which is building energy use.
And Chris?
Having been on the Triton College Architecture and Construction Curriculum Advisory Committee during a time when the school was struggling with getting more students directed to programs and job opportunities that actually had jobs at the end of it, I can tell you that it's an uphill battle to keep up with the technological needs of the industry and to create, implement, and budget those programs accordingly. So hopefully with the legislation that was passed with this Climate and Equitable Jobs Act last year that makes a serious effort to create these jobs, then there will be more programs available to ensure and support workforce development. And there also needs to be a partnership between local schools and local employers so that the skill sets required are actually, part of the curriculum. And that was a lot of the feedback that we heard as well. As to the B fundamentals materials, I think they have a great potential for simplifying the teaching process by providing an alternative to the Department of Energy PowerPoint training that is really more geared to working professionals than to college students. So I commend you on that.
Great. And before we go into I think we have time for probably one more question per person. But does anyone participating in the webinar have any questions for the instructors? Feel free to raise your hand, ask questions, or throw questions in the chat. No? Okay. Well, I'll keep going. And if anyone has any questions that they think of as we continue to go through the next set of questions, feel free to chime in or raise your hand. I'll start with Chris. As an architect specializing in building codes, what do you see as the nexus between building design and the knowledge of energy codes?
So from my perspective, the nexus is really between designing energy efficient buildings and maintaining fire protection safety. Being a member of the ICC Fire Code Action Committee, I've participated in the effort to coordinate between the needs of life safety and the desire for energy efficiency. And there is, for example, a steadily increasing need to understand how the use of combustible insulation elements for exterior construction can be applied without increasing the cost by requiring special fire testing of a custom designed solution. So I think that effort to really work together on that has been, a little bit of a challenge. It's much better than it was, but yeah, I mean, clearly building codes were originally formed because of issues related to fire. And now we're seeing, these other elements, that are coming into play. So, I mean, things like mass timber construction, for example, I mean, that would not have happened had there not have been extreme numbers of tests performed on these building systems so that they could be utilized in taller buildings, and that's how it got passed, in the codes. So, and there's just an extreme number of variations with regards to building envelopes that you can't test every one of them, and so there really is need to understand how these can be engineered properly so that they are considered fire safe as well.
Okay, and just kind of as a real brief follow-up to that, what do you wish more architects knew about energy codes and energy efficiency?
Well, I think that like any of the other codes, it's, I think, helpful to understand what those minimum requirements are in context and how they relate to each other, because following the minimum requirements, following the prescriptive requirements is certainly going to get you through the permit process, for example, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the quality building that you want. So things like energy modeling, for example, I mean, there's great challenge involved in getting that to be understood by building officials, once you've actually done the energy model. So so it's really that communication as well between architects and building officials that has some challenges to it as well. And I think that this is, with the effort to provide more performance-based approaches, a real challenge for building officials, because the last thing they want to do is have some engineer tell them how this is going to be accomplished, and then they don't really even understand how that's done. So so to understand the limitations of all of that, and to be able to communicate how all that will work together is, I think, something that could be extremely beneficial and move a lot of this agenda forward.
Great, thank you. And Bart, it sounds like you work within your curriculum to integrate energy code and building code as much as you possibly can. But when you're in the field working on the habitat projects or any other projects, is it do you leave that up to your students to get a better understanding of what the local code is or what code to follow, or do you kind of guide them to what, how they would track that down if they were working in a job?
Well, by the way, Chris, that was a great answer. I would love to dive in a little bit further what you were just saying about getting the local builder to with the and the local code inspector to understand what they're actually doing. That was great. But as far as our habitat stuff, what we end up doing is we lay out what minimum code is, and we'll sit there on the job and we'll have conversations about, this would satisfy code, but this is how we're going to go just a little bit further. And like I said a minute ago, cost restraints on these things, most of the time, the customer in this case is a disabled veteran or a low-income single mother. So there is very, very little money for any really extravagant idea. So what we try to do is, like I said earlier, if we can somehow save them labor and replace that with a better technique, a better building envelope, and educate them while we're there about, for example, we have a grant through IGN that we put solar on the houses. So, that's instant cost savings back to them. So that's really, we get back to this every time. For the average consumer residential, it's all about money. And and we talk about these codes with our students, and we try to explain to them, where is the best bang for your dollar and how do we get there. And the opposite side of this coin is comfort level in a home, comfort level in your business. So, yes, we're looking at all this other stuff, but there's another huge area of, I mean, a lot of these changes in building code increases the comfort level of your home exponentially. Better air quality, better sound, all of that kind of stuff that mixes in together, and you try to integrate that code and those standards. But like I said, code is very minimal. You mean, just to meet code is, you know, what everyone does. It's the mission to go above that.
Great, thank you so much. And Linda, as energy codes become more stringent year to year, how do you prepare students for that as you're looking at your curriculum? And then also, how does that change the communication methods that you would use based on your background with technical writing?
Well, I would say continual education is necessary. They're changing every year. One of the things we try to do with this curriculum is not tie it to specific numbers, like this is the insulation level for this particular climate zone, because we know that may change in the next code cycle. What we wanted to do is teach the principle. More insulation is better, more, better air sealing, right? And then they can turn to the code and look up the requirement. And as they evolve, as they grow in their career, codes will change and evolve too. And they'll be able to have that comfort, knowing that they can look into the code, understand it, figure out what the best practices are. I really liked what Bart said about learning to go beyond code, seeing it as the bare minimum. We try to emphasize that also in our modules. And I think that essentially we need to do better at marketing this. No one really gets excited about a code book, but if we can show, like Bart said, that this is saving money, this is making homes more comfortable, this is improving our environment, then I think we'll get a lot more people excited about complying with the code, about going beyond code as well.
Okay. Well, those are all the questions I had. Does anyone else, before we move on to our next presenter, does anyone else have a question?
Well, if you got time, I've got a question, but if you don't, it's okay.
I think we can, I think we can have one question. Sure.
I'm curious about the list on a Habitat for Humanity home where you really don't have the budget to put in. What do you end up as the sweet list of how you make that envelope tighter without extra budget? What are you doing? What are you recommending?
Well, I mean, number one, advanced framing techniques. So instead of over designing and overbuilding everything, which is what, basic, in construction contractor ideal is, oh, well, let's just throw an extra stud in there. Let's throw extra blocking in. It's no, everything that you put into that wall is replacing insulation. So the number one thing that we want to do is we want to build it strong enough that it's going to hold up to, in time and weather and everything else, but on the same hand, not overbuild it. For example, these houses are normally 26 feet wide. Trusses are on 2 foot on center. So there's no reason to have a two ply 2x10 header. It can be a single ply 2x10 header, and the windows aren't 6 and 7 feet wide. So we can get by with less material in the walls. That's number one. Number two is actually grading the insulation as far as the quality level that it's installed. Installing insulation, and people throw it in the wall, and a lot of times it's done by, people that don't know what they're doing, and the insulation value can be reduced by 40, maybe even 60% if it's poorly installed. We're looking at, we're doing zip board and taping it up and sealing the windows and trying to create a better envelope through just good, sound construction process. As far as interior and you know, there's not that much that can be done for the money. That's pretty much advanced framing techniques is probably the biggest thing that we can do. Every 2x4 that you put into a wall, if you do the calculation, is 1 square foot of insulation that you don't have anymore. So if you have 25 extra 2x4s, that's 25 square foot of insulation that you don't have. So through conduction and we could go into all kinds of things, but you know, it greatly reduces the efficiency of the building envelope.
Okay, I think we will move on to our next speaker, but if you have any questions or anything pops up that you think of later, feel free to send a message to Sumi, Katie, Davis, or I, and we will for sure get you in contact with our speakers. Thank you all very much for participating. We really appreciate it. It was a wonderful panel, and we're excited. For our next speaker is Katie Stonewater of Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. Let's see. Katie has been with Illinois DCO, I think about 2 years or a little over 2 years, and is a senior advisor of energy and broadband. She works on policies and programs to advance Illinois' energy economy. And Katie, I will let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Abby. Thanks, everybody. It's nice to be with you this afternoon. Oh, great. Okay, there's my slides. Thanks. So as Abby said, I'm a senior policy advisor at the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. I was asked to provide an overview of the programs and responsibilities that were bestowed to DCO through the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, and I'm happy to take any questions at the end. Apologies for some of you. I recognize some names that are on this call. You probably have already heard my spiel, but it's never hurts to hear it more than once to get some information. Okay, so on September 15th, Governor Pritzker signed into law the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, commonly known as CEJA, which you probably all know, comprehensive energy legislation that puts Illinois on a path to 100% clean energy by investing in renewable energy growth, retiring fossil fuel electricity production, setting a goal of 1 million electric vehicles on the road by 2030, providing rebates to consumers to purchase those EVs and install charging infrastructure, and just, if you can believe it, a lot more. Importantly, at least from DCO's perspective, it establishes a clean energy workforce program, makes investments in communities experiencing a power plant or coal mine closure, and sets strong equity and labor requirements on the projects created by this act. So DCO's role through CEJA will be implementing, oh, please skip to the next slide. DCO's role through CEJA will be implementing the workforce and community investment programs as established by the law. So this includes helping Illinois residents to be prepared and trained to capitalize on the jobs created by this act, and to provide support to workers and communities facing plant closures so their transition is hopefully a little smoother. Most importantly, as I kind of mentioned, the programs will bolster a diverse workforce in the clean energy industry and ensure that those individuals who have historically faced economic and environmental barriers have a priority in these training programs. So first up, the Clean Jobs Workforce Network program, which I'll refer to as Workforce Hubs. The program creates workforce programs to offer training, certification preparation, skill development, and clean energy related industries. The locations of these hubs are established by law, and there are 13 workforce hubs across the state. CEJA prioritizes program participation for individuals from communities defined in the Act as those from an R3 community and the Illinois Solar for All environmental justice communities. R3 communities are those communities that were created, are established by the cannabis law, and represent typically areas that have economic disadvantages. So the programs can also provide training to displaced energy workers, individuals that have faced employment barriers, and others. But the priority is the individuals in those R3 in Illinois Solar for All environmental justice communities. The 13 hub sites or workforce training programs will be operated by community-based organizations defined as groups that have experience in providing employment or skill development. And the hubs can also contract out aspects of hub performance. So one of the workforce hubs, or at least the organization that runs it, may be interested in contracting out services, such as support for remedial education for participants that might need additional education before enrolling in specific clean energy training. The programming offered by the hubs is to follow the Clean Jobs curriculum, which will develop the competencies that the workforce hubs will implement through their training programs. It'll identify the career pathways and skill sets needed for participants to enter into clean energy jobs. The curriculum is to be developed as part of a broad stakeholder process that's led by DCO, involving other state agencies and external partners that are identified in the law. So like environmental justice organizations, industry, unions, economic development organizations, etc. This is to be a robust stakeholder process and encourages input from a variety of stakeholders to help formulate the Clean Jobs curriculum and what the training may look like for the workforce hubs. In addition to implementing the Clean Jobs curriculum, the hubs are to coordinate with energy transition navigators, which I'll explain in a minute, coordinate recruitment and engagement with potential employers and host job making events, all to help eligible individuals take advantage of the workforce programs and complete their career pipeline. Next slide, please. So other workforce programs that are created by the bill, there's the Climate Works Pre-Apprenticeship program. So DCO is to stand up 3 Climate Works hubs that will operate throughout the state to recruit, pre-screen, and provide pre-apprenticeship training in order to create a qualified, diverse pipeline of workers that are prepared for careers in the construction, building trades, and clean energy jobs. Upon completion, graduates are to be connected to an apprenticeship program. The climate hubs will be operated by organizations that must demonstrate an ability to serve diverse populations. They have experience in construction and building trades and an ability to recruit and provide pre-apprenticeship training. So the workforce hubs are kind of targeted at more of the broader skills training for clean energy jobs, while the Climate Works hubs will train for careers in clean energy construction and building trades. There's also a returning residents clean jobs training program, which is modeled off of the Clean Jobs Workforce Program, but it'll provide training for individuals currently in the custody of the Department of Corrections. The training program is designed to allow participants to graduate as hireable in the clean energy industry, or to be able to enter into programs like the Clean Jobs Workforce hubs upon release. Candidates are to receive employability skills training along with their vocational training in clean energy, and the program administrators are also to work with potential employers to develop policies that support hiring returning residents, provide job coaching, and help with job placement. And this program should also follow the Clean Jobs curriculum, but it'll be redeveloped to apply to training in correctional institutions. Next slide, please. In addition to workforce training programs that are created by the bill, the law also establishes programs designed to support minority contractors to grow and succeed in developing and constructing clean energy projects. The first one, the Clean Energy Contractor Incubator Program, is administered via the 13 program hub sites, but it'll provide training, financial support, other supportive services like business planning and permitting, mentorship, and recruitment opportunities for small clean energy businesses and contractors whose owners are from the same areas as the Clean Jobs Workforce hubs, which again are those areas that are economically disadvantaged or significantly impacted by environmental challenges. This program will be operated also by community organizations, but the bill defines those organizations as those that have a history of providing business-related assistance and have knowledge to help entrepreneurs start, run, and grow their businesses. Organizations should also have experience in clean energy trades. And another program that I keep forgetting, honestly, to keep adding to my slides, the Clean Energy Primes Contractor Accelerator program. So this program is somewhat similar in nature to the Contractor Incubator program, but this program focuses on supporting existing contractors that are looking to expand capacity and become prime contractors on clean energy projects. This program is to offer mentorships, grants and financial support, coaching, and technical assistance, and that'll be through 3 regional cohorts. An important component or kind of a complementary program to the workforce hubs and the climate hubs are the Energy Transition Navigators and the Energy Transition Barrier Reduction Program. These 2 programs will help individuals that are participating in the workforce hubs and the climate hubs complete the training that they're going to get and hopefully ultimately find a job. So the Energy Transition Navigator Program, it will help with outreach, education, and recruitment to those eligible participants to encourage their participation in the workforce programs and in the Energy Transition Barrier Reduction Program, which I'll mention. Per the statute, per the law, Energy Transition Navigators are to prioritize recruiting for the Clean Jobs Workforce Hubs and the Pre-Apprenticeship Program. But the Energy Transition Navigators can also help with outreach for the contractor incubator programs too. Key to program success is ensuring that there are synergies and connections with the job market to ensure that these newly trained individuals have a job when they graduate. So the navigators and the program administrators for the programs like the workforce hubs should also work with other organizations in industry, economic development organizations, and others to identify skills needs to meet local job market needs and ensure participants are trained for jobs that are ready to be filled. Next slide, please. The Energy Transition Barrier Reduction Program. So this program is designed to increase access to and retention in clean energy career training programs. It'll provide the wraparound services for program participants, specifically providing supportive and financial assistance services to individuals that are participating in workforce hubs programs and the Climate Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Again, it's to help participants overcome barriers to engaging in and completing in the workforce programs. So DCO will determine the allowable program elements and what those financial supports will look like to reduce barriers. But the services can be wide ranging and they'll likely include life coaching, mentorship, tutoring, and referrals to other services such as mental health and housing. And the financial supports can include things like childcare, transportation support, emergency bill payments, etc. Next slide, please. I do briefly want to mention a few aspects of the community investment portions of CJA. So the bill creates a grant program called the Energy Transition Community Grants Program that'll provide grants to communities that have experienced or will experience a fossil fuel or nuclear plant or coal mine closure. Eligible communities will be those that had a facility that has retired or significantly reduced services in the past 6 years or will close within the next 6 years. The grants are to be used to plan for or address the economic and social impact on the community of the plant retirement or that transition. DCO will also determine what the eligible uses will be for, but it will likely include things like planning, recovery support, economic recovery support, property tax loss replacement, support for economic development projects, workforce development, whatever the community feels is necessary to help them recover from the loss of that coal plant or coal mine. Next slide, please. And finally, the bill creates a Displaced Energy Worker Bill of Rights, which places requirements of DCO and investor-owned electric generating companies, plant owners, or coal mines to support a smooth transition for energy workers. So this includes ensuring displaced workers are educated on various programs and the services available through DCO, including but not limited to the dislocated worker and rapid response programs. DCO is to provide skills matching, reemployment services, work-based learning, and financial and retirement planning, among other services, to ensure that workers are prepared for whatever their next step may be. The requirements through Displaced Energy Worker Bill of Rights on employers include that the employer needs to provide a written deactivation notice to DCO within 48 hours being filed. the deactivation notice is the employer's written notice to their regional transmission organization like PJM or MISO, letting those organizations know that they're planning to shutter their plants. And we are requiring that those employers also provide that notice to DCEO within 48 hours of being filed. They need to provide closure reports to DCEO about the expected closure date, the number of employees and their salaries, and any transition support services that the company will offer. The company must also provide job descriptions and any training the employee received on the job to help with skills matching and transition services. And this can be very important to ensure that training or reemployment support is tailored to the individual, but also doesn't recreate the wheel and simply waste time. The more information we have, the more targeted and helpful these programs can be. Next slide. That's it for me. I know that was a quick, pretty high level overview of a lot of the CEJA programs, and there's more in the bill, not just from things that DCO has to do, but from obviously, as you guys are probably very, very well aware of what other state agencies have to do. But just wanted to provide that quick overview to you, and happy to take questions if there's time for it.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? Feel free to raise your hand.
I have one question. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the IWAP program that it was being operated by DCEO about 7 years ago?
Give it to me not in an acronym.
I believe it's like Illinois Home Weatherization Assistance Program.
Yeah, our weatherization program. I am familiar with it. It is run through another bureau at our agency, but it is still something that the agency provides funding and support for.
Okay, I was involved on that in a training on that years ago. The training that you would provide, is it based on some kind of a acceptable and currently used certification program by some agency or something like that? Or are you providing your own certification for the training?
Yeah, I mean, so what the workforce programs are going to provide is supposed to be based off of that Clean Jobs curriculum as the law directed. So there will be, we would, I think, prefer that a lot of the training leads to some type of a certification for the individuals to ensure that they can, get a job at the end of this training. But what those specific certifications will be developed through that Clean Jobs curriculum. So I mentioned that there's going to be a large stakeholder process to develop that curriculum. And so we're really looking for folks like you, industry experts in the field to be able to provide your insight on, hey, be aware that all of these certification programs exist out there. May want to have workforce hubs that are geared towards that, but also being able to describe what are the jobs that you guys are aware of that need to be filled, so we can make sure that we're training specifically for those.
There was a big push on training at that time. What was happening is that people were trained, but they were not able to find jobs.
Right.
Certification, and it didn't work out well. More money was being spent on training, and the people were, hey, I got my certificate, I'm trained to do a job. There's no jobs available.
Right.
How are you going to address that problem?
That's what I think the energy transition navigators are to be helpful with. So I mentioned that those navigators are there to help kind of on the front end and the back end. So they're there to help recruit individuals to participate in the training, but they're also there on the back end. And the workforce hubs, so the training programs will also do this, but they're meant to be there on the back end to help individuals actually get linked to jobs. So there's requirements in the bill, but also things that we'll likely do for like job matchmaking events, but also to know what jobs are out there and what's available. So having direct contact with industry, making sure that the training programs and our partners are aware of tweaks that need to be made potentially to the training programs to make sure that when individuals come out that they have a job. We don't want to be training people to graduate with nothing.
That's what was happening previously. Only about 25% of the trained people actually landed a job. that was relevant to the training. And the training costs like $5,000 per person.
Yeah.
So it's the value of spending so much money, but then only getting 25% success out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And George, I'll also say to that point, I appreciate that point being made. I mean, I think that's something that we really wanted to make sure that we, I guess, protect against, for lack of a better way of saying it. But so I mentioned the curriculum piece, I mentioned the energy transition navigators. Another thing, and we have, workforce folks who this is their bread and butter and can probably give you better answers than I can. But we, as part of the development for all of these programs, we're also going to issue RFI, requests for information, to put out to the public and to get community impact on ways that we can kind of tailor and make sure that these programs are meeting the needs of the community. So if there's ideas that you have when we start to issue some of these RFIs, we would really love to hear those to make sure that we're incorporating all those best practices. And just for everyone's awareness too, so our training partners, like for the workforce hubs, for example, but pretty much any program that we're going to run under CEJA, we have to do it as a grant program. So we'll issue a notice of funding opportunity to call for organizations to apply to us to be those training partners or to run those workforce hubs. So one of the things that we always have to share and be careful of is that for organizations that may want to operate those training programs, we have to make sure through the NOFO process, there's no conflict of interest, that people who are giving us, I guess, advice and insight are the ones who end up applying. So that's why we're going through this. We want to go through this RFI process. So again, we'll issue a series of questions. We'll try to collect as much feedback from the community as we can, and that'll help us inform the drafting of those NOFOs. So we can make sure that the programs that we're putting out, we're asking our partner who's going to run them to let us know, certain experiences that they have, but also to make sure that they're hitting as much as we need them to hit, to your point, making sure folks have a job when they graduate.
Yeah, there should be some metrics to measure the success of the trained individuals in landing jobs. Previously, that was a low point where there was no tracking. And people didn't realize exactly the performance level wasn't all that well.
And there will be through, that's a requirement of CEJA that we have to track and report.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, George. Bart, it looks like you've got a question too.
Well, I was just gonna, comment on that. What we're doing right now is we have a solar program that IGN has gave us a grant for. I think we've got about 28 or so being trained as solar installers. Okay. What we've done in order to get them placed, well, there's a couple things that I think probably need to be considered in this for placement. Well, first thing, my construction management program for the last 3 years has had a 100% placement. I say 100% placement, and what I really mean is every student that wanted a job had a job. All right, because every once in a while we have that one or two students that they just they're coming to school and they're a continual student. But every student that's wanted a job had a job when they got done. And so we're adding in these energy components to our positions. They're highly fillable and are applicable to installers. And we've also hired a administrator that her job is to contact people in the solar industry within 100 miles of where we're at, have a conversation with them, introduce our students to them, and we have a apprenticeship. I don't know if we would necessarily call it an apprenticeship program, but a cost savings program to the contractor where we pay a certain dollar amount per hour that our guy works for that contractor if he hires one of our graduates out of the solar program. So it's multifaceted there. But what I'll tell you is, if we combine this training with existing successful programs,
Mhm.
We're our placement level is already high, and by making them more versatile and more employable, that just helps the exit. One thing that I've seen that in the ICCB is or Community College Network is there's not much cooperation between colleges. There's a lot of infighting between colleges. I want this student. This is my area. This is this. I mean, one thing that energy or you could do for these programs would be don't assign it to every community college in the state to have their own program, because what ends up happening is you have 5 kids at this college and 2 kids at this college and 12 kids at this college, where if you did regional sites where 1 in Southern Illinois, 1 in Central Illinois, maybe 5 or 7 in Chicago, now you can have 40 or 50 students at one location, and where they can actually become a hub for the industry to come to. But the industry is not going to come to a school that's got 3 students. I mean, it's just not worth their time. So I mean, I love competition, but competition between schools when we're fighting over dollars is idiocy, in my opinion. So anyway, take it for what it's worth.
No, I will. Thank you. I mean, no, this is helpful, and I think it's always, why I kind of like talking to groups like yours too, to get this kind of feedback. I definitely am really encouraged to hear what you guys are doing for job placement. I think that's some of the intent of CEJA is to have successful programs like yours. So again, not to say like, hey, go back to that stakeholder process or that RFI process, but that's information that we're going to be looking for. And, I mentioned job matchmaking events that the hubs are supposed to run. That's one component. We want those hubs to be really connected to industry. And that's why those energy transition navigators are there too, to help. Maybe that can be a requirement too, that we have the energy navigator, transition navigators calling around industry and just saying, what do you got? So one of the things that I didn't mention is that the Illinois Power Agency is going to be running, and I forget the exact name of it, but it's essentially like a jobs database. So we're going to have at least something available publicly that'll be able to show, again, we want these graduates to have job matching, those kind of events, and be like, personally connected, but there will also be a portal where we're going to have work with industry, and the Illinois Power Agency and us will be running this, but they'll be mainly doing it because they're the ones who are working with industry and giving them the money to actually develop the solar arrays. So long-winded way short. Yeah, sure.
I'm going back to what was said a few minutes ago as far as how to determine. One of the things that needs to be done, my recommendation is to look at analysis of the areas, because one of the things that needs to be considered is the region and the market and the type of companies that are out there that are going to be doing to recruit the specific students. What is required up north may not be the same thing as what is required down south.
Right.
And I think that's what he was trying to say. Let's target the groups according to the need and according to the region and according to the job market on those regions. It also has to do with what type of fuels they're using, what type of energy they're using, what type of systems they're installing, because just because up north we're using a certain type of system doesn't mean that we're using the same down south. And I think that's where you're going to really start tuning in to what is necessary. My name is Jose. I'm from Harper College as well. So I figure that I just chime in a little bit on that.
No, I appreciate that, Jose. And I think, again, I think that's kind of where those energy transition navigators come in, because they are to help be connections to the local job market, to, understand what those jobs are available, what type of energy they're installing in those areas. And again, there's going to be, for the workforce hubs, there will be 13 locations. And those are already set in statute. We can't change those, but they will be around the state. They'll be north, central, south, wherever. They're in the legislation if you want to take a look at them. But I think that's absolutely I appreciate that, because Illinois is a very diverse state. And, I grew up downstate, but now I live in Chicago, and the differences between those two areas are pretty stark. So I appreciate that feedback. That's kind of what we're, I think thinking for those energy transition navigators to be helpful connections. And the workforce hubs are also responsible for making sure they have that connection with the local job market too. Again,
similar to the previous 5-6 years ago, there were hubs. Usually there were community organizations that kind of focus on the community and trying to develop the labor force, training people to find jobs, basically. Is this who you're working with right now, also community organizations? Also, there was I vaguely remember it was a $5 million per year budget. Is that what you're shooting for right now, or what's the grant, or what is the budget that's allocated by the state?
So the 5 workforce, so I think I'm not sure if your first question, they will be run by community-based organizations. So they're defined in the law to have certain characteristics, but essentially to be able to, to train individuals with employability skills, et cetera. And they can be community colleges, nonprofits, local governments can operate some of these training programs as well. The budget for CEJA it's all kind of described in the law for all the various programs. So the workforce hubs can have up to $21 million a year. As we work on these programs, we develop these programs, we hopefully get more folks engaged and trained. It'll take time to ramp up to that, but that's the cap. I think the pre-apprenticeship program or the climate hubs, I think that's about $9 million a year. That's the cap. The energy transition navigators, the ones who are supposed to kind of help with all that all-encompassing recruitment and helping with job placement, local job market knowledge. They're to have about $6 million a year. The barrier reduction program, which are those wraparound services to help make sure the participants stay in those programs, is also about $6 million a year. I might be wrong on that. But that's at least a rough estimate of where the money that'll be available. Again, those are the caps. It'll take time to build up to that, but
more than previously. Before, there was always requests for additional funds from state legislature, and that wasn't usually successful. And I guess that was one reason why perhaps the program was kind of canceled, because of lack of funds, basically. The legislature just kind of said, nah, it's not working out too good.
Yeah. And this will actually be funded a little probably differently too than like the legislature having to appropriate the funds. These are all of these programs that DCO is operating, and a lot of other aspects of CEJA are paid for by ratepayer funds. So if you guys look at your Ameren or ComEd bill, you'll see something on there called ETAC. It's the Energy Transition Assistance Charge. That it's a charge to our utility bills. It's usually going to average about 60 cents a month for us as residential customers. But that's the charge that's going into a fund that's going to pay for all of these programs.
Yeah, right now, I believe the utility companies utilize for energy efficiency to go to homeowners and business owners.
Yep. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, the renewable projects are paid that way. Energy efficiency programs are paid that way. The zero emission credits, which support ailing nuclear plants, are paid that way. Yeah, that's exactly right.
One thing that I would recommend is that you monitor the success rate of how many students are landing jobs before renewing a contract, because students couldn't find jobs and they were bringing in another batch of students. And it's like, most of the previous batch couldn't even find a job. Why are you training a new batch?
Sure.
That was a big concern.
Yeah, and I think that will be, I can't speak to all the specifics for things just yet for what we'll measure, but that's a good point, I think, to make. And I think that would definitely be a consideration. So every time we do a grant, it's usually every 3 years we put out a new notice of funding opportunity. So, a training partner, we may award a grant to train for the workforce hubs in 2022, may not get renewed in 2025. And we'll ask for a lot of these metrics. They'll report to us quarterly, and we'll probably monitor for things like this. But I appreciate that.
monitoring job placement, I would say, would be the most important metric in this program.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna sneak in. Sorry. Thank you, Katie, so much for all of your information. We through iGen, CDEC, Illinois Office of Energy, anytime I know our manager for Illinois Office of Energy, and I know Katie Davis at iGen speaks somewhat regularly with Katie Stonewater. So should there be any opportunities for you all in your workforce development to respond to requests for information or chime in on these different opportunities that they're offering, we will share them far and wide. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about what's coming down the pike for all of these CEJA programs that Katie's group at DCO is going to be putting into place. I want to thank you all very much for attending today. Sorry, Katie, did I cut you off?
No, I was just going to quickly say to that end, Abby, we're putting together a website for updates for CEJA too. And so we'll hopefully have that up soon. I mean, it'll be pretty bare bones, but at least that'll be places where we can, we'll share, you know, when NOFOs or the RFIs are available, but there'll also be a place for folks to be able to sign up for notices too. So it'll be on DCO's website, and I'm sure it'll be prominently called out, but I'll let Katie and Abby know too when that's up. So if folks want to go to it, at the very least to sign up, so we can get in touch with you guys when we release this stuff. We can get feedback from you.
Yep, great. The only last minute housekeeping items I have is you will receive a follow-up email from either Katie Davis or myself that includes a participation survey. So please feel free to fill that out. And it'll also include a link to registering for the Train the Trainer event, which is next Friday as well. So look for that email beginning of next week. I hope you all have a really great weekend. Thank you so much for sticking it out with us at 2 o'clock on Earth Day, when I know you all had a bunch of other celebrations probably to attend. So we really appreciate it. And it was great seeing you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.